Hi everybody, this is Professor Maria Burns. I'm a maritime and energy and security specialist, and I would like to present the IMO 2020 standards. This is the new era in fuel efficiency, the new regulations imposed by the International Maritime Organization under the United Nations, and this is going to revolutionize the energy industry, the maritime industry, and the global economy, I believe. So this presentation is a part of a conference I was asked to present in Houston, Texas, the Mare Forum. This is a very well-established conference, and I was blessed to have a coverage by the Reuters news agency. Actually, I was humbled to see that I was quoted in their article and then in NASDAQ and a number of different news agencies. So I thought, let me present the full picture, the whole article, the whole presentation. So the International Maritime Organization is an instrument of the United Nations, and we have new standards implemented as of 2020, January the 1st. So the non-emission control areas for sulfur used to have a sulfur cap of 3.5%. So ships' emissions could contain 3.5% of sulfur. That was the cap, that was the maximum limit allowable. But as of January the 1st, 2020, this amount is going to diminish. So the cap is going to diminish to 0.5%. This means that ships will have to go greener, because I've been serving the maritime industry and we are highly innovative, and I believe that maritime companies, the vast majority of them are well established and they respect the environment. So this is a new era for everybody with fuel efficiency. So how is this going to change the global scenery? Every single day, the maritime industry burns 3 million barrels of fuel for their ships, and this amounts to 1.1 billion of barrels every single year. We have 55,000 ocean-going vessels, so these are the larger ships, greater than 3,000 deadweight. These do not include barges, they don't include recreational boats, yachts, and so on. So these will be impacted by the new standards. And why is this important? Why is the maritime industry such a big deal? Because over 80% of global transportation is handled by ships. I am located in Houston, Texas, and here we are blessed to be a maritime center and an energy center. So this is a double whammy. Now, since January the 1st, 2015, ships trading in designated emission control areas have been using fuel oil with a sulfur content of no more than 0.1% by weight. So this was their permissible sulfur limit. However, as you can see, the ECAs, the emission control areas, are the green bubbles, and there is a speculation about the years to come that potentially new ECAs will grow in Central America and the Caribbean, in Scandinavian countries, and also in the Mediterranean Sea, close to Japan and the Australia, and Oceania, Southeast Asia. So we have potentially an extension of the ECA regulations. What does this mean? This is more growth for the energy industry and more work for the refineries. Higher freight rates as well, so we're going to go through that. Now, this is a map of the world showing us the global refineries. So for the past 3 years, as a part of my book, Managing Energy Security, I was blessed to research on the global refineries in economies and countries that are highly developed. The refineries mostly are evolved as well, high technologies, greener, and so on. In countries with some market uncertainty, refineries did not have the funds to invest in maintenance, new technologies, and so on. So this has created this map here, this mismatch between the established refineries, the developed refineries, but we have some new global trade centers. So this is where all the action goes in terms of cargo production and consumption. So there is a compelling need to realign where the refineries are located and where this new fuel, the new bunkers, are going to be sold, because you understand that ships follow the popular trade routes around the world. So we have some exciting times ahead of us. Let me add to this excitement by having a zoom out and see the big picture of global trade. The value, first of all, is expected to grow slowly but steadily, but the volume of global trade is going to grow much more exponentially. So because of the global competition, we might not have tremendous growth in value, but we might have an increase in volume. Global bunker consumption. In 2020, we estimate that 5 million barrels a day will be burned every single day for fuel, ship's fuel. But 20 years later, 2040, over 8 million of barrels a day will be burned. This is great news for the energy industry and refineries. This could be bad news for the maritime industry because this means increased costs. Please keep in mind that for sea, land, air transportation, at least 50% of the operational costs pertain to fuel consumption. Very high cost. So this new regulation is going to drive the costs even higher. And this is going to drive or will instigate some power games at a global supply chain level to figure out who is going to bear the additional cost for fuel. Is it going to be the seller of the commodities, the buyer of the commodities? Is it going to be across the supply chain, different key players? So this is a matter of leveraging, and geopolitics are also going to play a role in that. Now, this is a list of the options that ship owners have as to what type of fuels or what type of technologies, like scrubbers, is going to be more popular. So I'm going to explain in the next slide that scrubbers are only going to represent about 6% of the global market in 2019 and 2020, as far as we know. So this is not highly popular in terms of technology for now. Ammonia, this is hazmat, requires extra training. It is a little bit dangerous, so you need to train your people very well. Area of specialization. So I have a question mark here. Unscrubbed heavy sulfur fuel oil, it becomes obsolete, not very popular. Distillates that are used directly are going to become very popular in green bars here. Very low sulfur fuel oil, very popular in the years to come. LNG, very popular. And then the blue bar, what I have here is the transition fuels. Like we are trying to transition into this new area by using short-term LSFO in 0.5 blend and MGO with fuel oil blend. So the three green bar areas are the most popular: distillates, very low sulfur fuel oil, and LNG. And this is my algorithms, my forecasts show these three areas. Now, and the winner is, ladies and gentlemen, LNG, which as of late 2019, we only have 600 ships, or 1% of the global fleet, that is using LNG as a fuel. However, this is going to change tremendously in the years to come. ships with scrubbers, they represent 6% or 3,000 ships around the world. I don't see them as being extremely popular only because the United Nations have released some research or some concerns about how green scrubbers really are. So unless we have some definite results and unless this number changes, so far we don't see the scrubbers becoming too popular. So the remaining 93% of global fleet, which is 51,400 ships, these are going to be using alternative fuel, the low sulfur fuels. Now, this means end products for the refineries, and I include some parts of my research in my book, Managing Energy Security. The global economy is going to impact the strategic locations where the energy majors, the large energy corporations, are going to sell the low sulfur fuel. We know that India is going to do tremendously well in the years to come. China is going to do well. The American economy is going to do great. Canada, Russia, Brazil. So we know which countries are going to do great. And these countries are going to determine demand, supply, the trade routes. So these are the areas, especially in Southeast Asia. This is where the energy companies are betting to sell these sophisticated fuels of the future. As a conclusion here, the fuel prices will go high. Supply chain delays are expected and increased costs because the refineries are located in one part of the world, but there needs to be some transportation for these bunkers, for these fuels to be taken to the World Trade Centers where ships are, moving the commodities around. We're going to have some issues with global fuel distribution. Some fuel types might be scarce, forcing the ship's captains to deviate and navigate here and there in search of the perfect fuel, the suitable fuel for their ship's engines. And we know the repercussions when the fuel quality does not meet the specs of our engine. Ship owners forced to drive the freight rates higher. So this is going to be changing some of the checks and balances in the industry. Energy majors will have, well, they have already announced selected ports where compliant bunkers will be available. Again, these are closer to the Far East area, the American continent, but in Europe and so on, but very strategic selected areas to start. And there is a need to harmonize new fuel chemical composition between energy companies in order to avoid damages of the ship's engines. Now, as a conclusion, energy security, if we were to think of its definition, means we need efficient energy, fuel efficiency, we need sustainability, affordability, and accessibility. This new chapter in the regulation will determine efficiency as a priority for the global industry and the United Nations and countries, of course. But we still need to work more on sustainability, affordability, and accessibility of this new type of fuels. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to your comments. Thank you.